Welcome to the Lifestyle You podcast. I'm your host and health and fitness coach, Jenna Altman, and I'm so glad that you're here. Health and fitness don't have to be that complicated. Do you want to achieve a body you're proud of, gain physical and mental energy, and grow your confidence without giving up date night with your partner or starving yourself? The Lifestyle You podcast will provide you with the tools that you need to make your health and fitness fit into your lifestyle, not the other way around. The stories, lessons, and actionable takeaways from original episodes and guest interviews on this podcast will not only allow you to break through those limiting fears and beliefs, but also find freedom and confidence in the way that you move and fuel your body so that you can live your strongest, healthiest, and happiest life. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lifestyle You podcast. Today, I wanted to make this a really raw and vulnerable sort of share. This is really diving into my past, my own transformation story. And what's really cool about my story is actually pretty transformational in the sense that I actually had to gain weight in order to become a healthier version of myself. And so really just want to start off with kind of where this all stemmed from and really what kind of triggered my story and what brought me to coaching in the first place and brought me to this place of serving others in their health and fitness and why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. And so for me, I had always been probably since about 10th grade. I remember always being worried about what I was eating. And really for me, I was an athlete growing up, so I was very active. I didn't really need to be paying attention to these things, but somewhere along the line, I just was really preoccupied about the foods that I was consuming. And this was something that was really hard for me, right? Being in 10th grade, I think that you're probably 15, 16 at that point. There's a lot of pressure in society. I know for a lot of females in our generation and even the generations to come, this is something that we have struggled with, and just feeling self-consciousness around our bodies and the way that we looked. And I was somebody that really didn't have a physique that I had to be concerned about. Again, I wasn't someone who had a lot of weight on me, but I really picked my body apart. I picked apart those pieces of me that weren't skinny enough or that had excess fat on them. And it really all started in 10th grade. And that's really when I started going to the gym. And it was more so less because I wanted to move my body to enjoy it like I did with sports, and more so for the fact of being able to eat foods and not gaining weight as a result of those. That's why I started working out in the first place. And so I don't know if you come to this story or this space with this same kind of burden, but I want you to know that this journey can evolve in so many different ways. And for me, it looked a lot different than this come now where I'm at in this place. And so there is hope for you that you can move your body for enjoyment, but that's a topic for another day. So back to my story, I really was somebody who, when I got to college, I struggled in high school, about self-consciousness. I wasn't comfortable in my body. I wanted to always be skinnier. I was always concerned about gaining any sort of weight. And then when I got to college, I, again, had been an athlete my entire life, so I was pretty active. And when I got to college, I was no longer playing sports. And that was honestly one of the toughest things I think that I had to deal with in my life, because I had always had friends naturally from playing sports. And so I was surrounded with teammates who naturally became your go-to friends. And when you get to college and I was at a really big school, I went to Penn State, and I wasn't a big drinker, didn't really enjoy the party scene. So it was challenging to really find my sort of safe space. And so for me, what that looked like and how I dealt with that was running every single day. And that was a good sort of hobby to pick up, right? I was getting active again. I was playing, I was competing against myself, not necessarily a team sport, but I was racing myself in those runs. But at some point it became really unhealthy because I was running 6 miles a day. And if I didn't hit 6 miles, I would not allow myself to eat certain foods, or I would feel guilty about the foods that I would be consuming. And so I became over obsessed with running and shrinking my body, so much to the point that then I was also doing like a 1200, 1000 calorie diet, and really eliminating all of the foods that I enjoy, and was almost afraid of incorporating these foods into my diet. So like very much obsessed with, eating only healthy foods and only consuming those kind of foods that were labeled as healthy or good for you. And any other food I just didn't eat. And so really for me, a big trigger in that was like what triggered this spiral was not only like not having a sport to play, but also I went through a pretty challenging breakup. And that was something that just led me to, kind of deal with my issues through avenues that I can control, and our health and fitness are unfortunately two of those avenues. And so I did it in a pretty unhealthy, unsustainable way, but I ended up getting to 106 pounds. And for me, I normally sit around 135 pounds. I am not small by nature. I'm pretty muscular in my body, and I love that about myself now. But even being 106 pounds, I still felt like I wasn't skinny enough, and I didn't love my body, and I still hated, and I picked apart and I pulled at my love handles that were like barely existent, because I was so self-conscious about that part of my body. And it wasn't until really the summer before I was leaving for Spain. I studied abroad for a summer there for about 5 weeks. And right before I left for that trip, I had a appointment scheduled with a gynecologist. And so I went in for that appointment, and I, was sharing that I didn't have a period for the past like 2 years of my life. And she was like, okay, I think we should put you on birth control. And you guys probably have seen my stance on being on hormonal birth control, and just how I never wanted to do that because I wanted to heal my body naturally. And so the alternative that she gave me was to gain 10 pounds while I was in Spain. And I was really excited about that because I was like, someone giving me permission to actually gain weight, like definitely I will take that. And so another really interesting point that she pointed out though in that same visit, and something that had never really crossed my mind, was she had asked me if I was struggling with any sort of disordered eating habits. And I remember being defensive and getting like kind of nervous, and I was like, oh no, that's not something that I do. That's not something I struggle with. And thinking back on that, that was probably the first time that anybody kind of spelled it out for me point blank, and shared like, hey, I think you actually are struggling with something. I think that you do have a problem with this. And fast forward to, that summer, I go away, I gain the 10 pounds, I come back, and that next year was the year that I actually went and saw a therapist. And prior to seeing a therapist, I actually was referred to a nutritionist. And when I saw the nutritionist, she said, you seem like you already eat pretty healthy. I don't think you need direction on what foods you should be eating and what foods you shouldn't be eating. And she was the one that referred me to the therapist, noticing that this was a lot of a mental struggle for me personally. And so I went to therapy. I was only there for a semester of college. I only had a semester left. And she basically we had discussions around it. I found the therapy to be very helpful, in at least recognizing that I was struggling with this process mentally. So after the therapy sessions, I had entered the real world and started a job at a corporate firm. And I really was still battling with a lot of the sort of disordered eating habits that I did have around food. And it wasn't until I started strength training at a local gym here in Raleigh that I really started to feel confident in my body. While I was doing the strength training, I was also at the same time working with a one-on-one nutrition coach. And those two experiences allowed me to really save myself from the danger that I was going through. And for me, it wasn't what I thought it would look like, right? It wasn't me weighing 100 pounds or me having a lot of discipline and always saying no to certain foods. For me, what I really needed was more flexibility and freedom around these these avenues, right? Because I had become so obsessed with them, and I turned to them as coping mechanisms for things that I wasn't handling or dealing with in my life. And it was through strength training and proper nutrition that I actually was able to find a healthy relationship with exercise, food, and my body. And I really tapped into this energy that I never knew I had. And it honestly changed my body and my mind and my life for the better. And so some of the things that kind of cascaded as a result of strength training and proper nutrition were me falling in love with the movement that I was doing, right? I was finally happy with moving my body just because it was fun, and I was challenging my body to lift heavier weights and becoming a stronger version of myself. And that was a different feeling than trying to shrink myself. And not only that, I also was able to learn how to eat enough for my body and enjoy my favorite foods again without feeling guilty. And yes, that took some time, and that's not something that happens overnight, but I was finally able to reintroduce foods into my life that I never thought I'd be able to have again because I had cut them out for so long. And on top of that, obviously I got my period back, so I was now in a healthy perspective. I have had a healthy cycle now for roughly at least 4 years. And that's really cool because our cycles are our fifth vital sign as females, and something that lets our body know that it is thriving and functioning really well. And then I also got stronger, like I mentioned, both physically and mentally, and I became more of myself. And I now exhibit a confidence that I never thought I would have had. And this confidence that I have is not something that's innate in me. I have naturally always had some level of confidence, but really through this process, I felt so beaten down, and I honestly got to the point where I was like, is it even possible for me to find peace and freedom in these things? Or is this going to be something that I struggle with for my entire life? And that's really what got me into this work, and why I'm doing it in the first place is because I was able to discover my passion and to build a life that incorporated health and fitness, but wasn't totally focused on just those two things. And if you are someone who struggles with finding this balance, I want you to know that it is totally possible, and that a healthy space and place exists for you and your health and fitness. And so this is just a little part of my journey that I wanted to share with you guys today. And I hope that you're able to take whatever you need to take from the story and add it to your life if that's what you need today. If not, I hope that this brought you a little bit closer to me and hopefully gives you a perspective as to why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about helping other women work through these things in their health and fitness journeys as well. And so thank you guys so much for listening. I know that this wasn't a super informative sort of approach like we normally take, but really just wanted to share a vulnerable side of me that is something that I've never really truly shared in one place. I've had Instagram posts of different parts of my journey, but never really kind of putting it all in one place. And so if this story resonated with you, if you want to talk any more about these things, I am so here for you and would love to connect on Instagram, in the messages, in the DMs. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And I hope that you found this message somewhat valuable to you and your life, or maybe could be something useful for a friend to listen to as well. So feel free to forward that along and let me know if you guys need anything at all. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star rating and review to help others discover the magic we're creating together. If there's someone in your life who could benefit from listening to this episode, be sure to forward it along to them. You can also follow me on Instagram at Jenna Ray Altman for more helpful content, resources, and good vibes. As always, thank you so much for being here.